So don't you think today it's a little complicated also because the ruling and the elite are not necessarily the same thing?
No, I would not agree. I think the elite always rules.
Okay.
I mean, if you are not the ruler, then you are no longer the elite.
Okay.
You will be out. So right now you think that who's ruling the land? The Modi, Amit Shah combined, the BJP, NDA organization, or is it behind the screen, the plutocrats like the Adanis, the Godrejs, the Ambanis, the Birlas, the Tatas, and so on, who control more than 30-40% of the GDP of this country.
economy, yeah.
So I think the elite is what we call conveniently these days celebrities.
Right.
So you might have the billion-dollar grossers like Kohli and Dhoni. You might have people like Amir Khan grossing more in China than in India.
Right.
You would have Shah Rukh Khan elsewhere in Europe. So you would have the film stars, the cricket players, the industrialists, the wheeler dealers, the merchant bankers, who also have close nexus with the politicians.
Right.
And they form, but are they all men of taste? Are they all men given to art, literature, music?
Right.
And forget about art, literature, music, about food. I mean, it breaks my heart when I see Adhiraj, somebody taking a beautiful plate, perfectly made plate of biryani,
Right.
and dousing the biryani into korma,
Yeah.
and say कि दाल चावल जैसे गूंथ के खाते हैं, start eating it. Or you have somebody who doesn't have any idea of what meat is, and says आपका meat बहुत अच्छा गला है. So the point is, as if tenderizing the meat is the greatest art of cooking meat. So I mean, I had the rudeness to tell against that. In that case, you might as well praise my pressure cooker, because I don't use pressure cooker while cooking, and I like to slow cook my food. And if you think that if I have done it for your taste, gala diya meat ko, and that's all there is to it, then you have. And the biryani and the korma thing is terrible. You know, you see that happen every time.
Yeah, it's become
So that is what I mean, that the ruling elite may be patronizing arts,
Right.
but may not be the connoisseurs themselves, with few exceptions.
So there's a big dichotomy there.
There always has been there.
Between the patron and the connoisseur.
Between the patron and the connoisseur, there always has been a dichotomy. And you see, earlier the king or the ruling prince wanted to organize a music recital, and to show that he could afford to do it, he would have a what would they call it, baithak or a majlis, to which some people, rasikas, would be invited.
Right.
So connoisseurs would get a chance to listen to great musicians like Abdul Karim Khan Saab, Fayaz Khan Saab, Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Saab, even Vishnu Digambar Paluskar, and so on, you know. So you would have a prince who may not necessarily be a great connoisseur, choosing to think of himself as a great patron and connoisseur. बेसुरा भी हो सकता था.
But he's sitting bored through the whole thing.
Oh, he's
dying of boredom.
He's almost dying of boredom. Actually, Amjad Khan Ali Saab's father does mention an episode where the Maharaja Gwalior asked him to play and went to sleep. And then he stopped playing. He said, please play on. And then he came back home and said that this was torture to play for somebody like him. But that was the Nawab of Rampur, who was a great patron of music, and Acharya Brahaspati was in his court, and I think Begum Akhtar for a short while was a girl singer there. And the Rampur Gharana comes out of their patronage. So the Gwalior Gharana, the Rampur Gharana, the Patiala Gharana were probably spawned by people who had very little to do with music. They were equally proud of showing their tiger hunts, the duck shoots, their sexual prowess, the 36 anda omelette which Rajasa Patiala could eat, 300 wives who could satisfy, or so the claim was, and things of that kind. So I think this relationship between the patron being a connoisseur is a tricky one. I think it applies as much to the European context as anywhere.
We see lots of that today, sir. We see loads of that today, all over the place. I mean, there's so many situations where people are organizing entertainment, but not because they want to be entertained.
They don't. It's basically, you have a corporate social responsibility, and if you want to get 2% of the corporate social responsibility money in patronage, you have something like the Tata Center for Performing Arts, or you have Indira Gandhi Center for Culture and Arts, or the Mahindras there, or my good friend Sunil Kant Munjal has that great art festival in Gurgaon. Sorry, not Gurgaon, Goa. So, you know, there are lots of people who patronize arts, music and dance, because it is supposed to be their responsibility. Now, Bill Gates doesn't do that. Bill Gates does the HIV campaigns, or does some other thing, you know, the vaccines. So some people do this for art. Well, like the Sarabhais did that in the Darpan Art Academy. But the point is that there's a very, very few people where it coincides. Where you have the Sarabhais in Ahmedabad, where as long as Mrinalini Sarabhai survived and lived, and as long as her daughter is there. They have a sense of inheritance, and they probably were connoisseurs and practitioners of performing arts. It is not necessary for you to be a great performer and a connoisseur. I've been discussing this with Tanmay, that if you read this Unequal Music by Vikram Seth, you come across a protagonist who knows that he is sensitive and can play well, but can't ever be there, up there. So there is a question of a person who's a gifted prodigy, but may never blossom as a great performer.
It's a disadvantage.
There may be a great teacher who's not a great performer. We have this problem with my granddaughters when they started learning classical music. They were very disrespectful of their teachers and they would say, unki awaaz theek nahi hai. The problem was that the first one, the elder granddaughter, went to a teacher who was from the Rampur Gharana, had a great voice, and he was very proud of his lineage. And he imposed the lineage so much on the girl that she realized that voice culture and tradition and khandan and style were the most important things. He was, to my mind, not a great teacher. The other gentleman who was a music teacher in the school was a far more efficient music teacher. But he didn't have the gharana, he didn't have the gravitas, and he didn't have, to top it all, the voice. So he didn't have the courage in his voice, and he was not having the personality to carry it off. But then that's it. That's the way it is. Some of the most beautiful discussions I have had on Indian music are people like Vidya Rao, who is the most cerebral of singers of light classical, Kabir Wani and Tubris and so on.
I've had the opportunity to play with her,
and she is absolutely brilliant. So the point is that there are very few people who can do that to you. And I have been very fortunate to have a relationship with the Dagars. And Wasit Mia used to be a school kid in class 8th in modern school when we first encountered each other. And the whole family treats me very nicely. And they could explain to me things which nobody else could. That's what great teaching is. I was transporting, I was escorting, not carrying. I couldn't have carried him, he was heavy, well built. I was transporting Ustad Rahimuddin Khan Sahab Dagar from Old Delhi railway station to the Vishnu Digambar Music Festival long years ago, it was more than half a century back. And this gentleman was humming in the scooter. First of all, it was crazy. He told me that get me a black scooter. So I didn't know why did he want me to get him a black scooter. Then he explained to me that black scooters are the newer ones in Delhi, so they have better shock absorbers. Then he kept humming and then asked me, do you know some music? I said, no, I don't know anything. Then he said, then you didn't notice. What I did was a Argi Rikhab. Now, I did not know what Argi Rikhab was, but the words sounded familiar. So he was kind enough to explain to me that when you use Rikhab, the ray, in a manner that the mood is evoked of you are giving Arghya to sun, it is the Arghi Rikhab. Arghya is Anjali mein pani, aap Arghya de rahe. Rikhab is ray. And if the ray is dedicated to the rising sun, is the Arghi Rikhab. So these are the kinds of things which a great musician effortlessly conveys to you. But would you be fortunate to have a teacher like this? Would you be fortunate to have played with him or her sometime? Would you, or the person is playing to the gallery? I mean, the brilliant person like Zakir Hussain, or he sold out long time back, Ataj, Vataj, Ustad, and that's the end of the story. And Ravi Shankar, a great musician, but not a patch on Annapurna Devi or even Vilayat Hussain Khan Sahab. I mean, comparisons are odious, but if you have heard both of them play, you can't play for 3 minutes flat for an audience and come on some. I remember listening to a Bhairavi, again half a century back in Sapru House, Vilayat Khan Sahab was playing, and much before I knew, tears were flowing out of my eyes, and this was 3 in the morning, and he had been playing for 2 hours by then, and he, he does the Been Ka Kaam, गाने भी लगते हैं, तो अब तो खैर रहे नहीं उस सब, अल्लाह उनको रोको नेकी बख्शे, बट वो बजाते भी थे, बीनकारी भी करते और गाते भी थे. And Shuzad does a bit of that, but no comparison. But that's when you realize that is very, very few. I mean, let's switch back to Beethoven. Man was tone deaf towards the end of his life, but he was still creating great music and listening to it back here. Because I think ultimately everything starts here. In the brain. So your sense perceptions, whether it is food or sex or literature or art or music, is right here. So I think that is what I would like to get back to what you raised,
Yeah.
that when we talk in terms of connoisseurship, there is that verse in Sanskrit which says, Araskeshu kavitva nivedanam prabhu malika malika malika. Don't let me sing in front of people who are boors and who know nothing, who are Philistines.
Yeah.
Or let me recite poetry there.
Yeah.
And then again, there is another shlok in, which says, Ahar nidra bhai matvancha. Food and sex and sleep are common to animals and human beings. What makes a human being different from animals is the aesthetic capacity. So that aesthetic capacity might be triggered by music,
Right.
triggered by poetry.
Right.
Some people might be hooked to painting. They may not be musicians, but painting does them,
Yeah.
And some do it with food.
Yeah. So I have on this one 3 questions. So first is that you mentioned the brain just now, right? And there's the question is what really feeds the brain? How is the brain fed purely by information, or is it actually fed by the stomach, or
The stomach is a very important part. Unless the stomach digests food
Yeah.
and glucose is sent to your brain,
Yeah.
it will stop working.
Right.
Unless your stomach distills sodium and potassium and sends some of it in the blood traces to your brain, the synapses would not be jumped. The brain would cease functioning.
Yeah.
So the stomach is very important part of that.
Yeah.
But then there is also the endocrine system in the body, the hormonal system,
Right.
which also triggers those from
Which-
endorphins which go up there. So nobody knows what happens in a brain and how brain works. But the point is that the brain, the basic conundrum would be that are there any intuitive traces of knowledge, hardwiring in the brain, which are conditioned by the biofeedback and nature versus nurture, or there is a clean slate, as Steven Pinker would say, that all this joke about men being angels or intuition in brain is just not there. I mean, that is the primordial part of the brain, the thalamus maybe, but if you come to emotional part of the brain, amygdala, or if you go to higher cortex, the brain probably doesn't have any of those animal intuitions which trigger, which allow the higher functions of aesthetic
beyond
enjoyment.
the reptilian brain. Yeah.
Yes, so you would have reflexes,
Yeah.
flight or fright, which would be basically your spinal cord and
Yeah. So next one is that I've been feeling for a long time that I think that it may be a good idea to document, or at least create a system of documentation, so that we can preserve and propagate a lot of our, let's say, subcontinental heritage, and it's vast.
It is.
Are people doing that now?
People are apparently doing it, but they are doing it in a small segments of jigsaw puzzles where it doesn't match. There is a project which is the UNESCO sponsored project on intangible heritage of humankind,
Okay.
and which there are 2 or 3 Indian things which are taking place.
Yes, sir.
One is food,
Yeah.
and they are trying to do that to bits of music.
Okay.
But they are all bits and pieces.
Right.
They are not fitting into one place at all.
Yeah.
Indira Gandhi Cultural Center does some of that in terms of folk and in terms of harvests and planting and plantations and so on. Sangeet Natak Academy does that, but does it in a very, very red tape oriented governmental manner.
Okay.
I think the Indira Gandhi Center for Culture and Arts is much better.
He was there recently. Yeah.
With Molly Kaushal, Professor Molly Kaushal, or who?
Oh no, there was a festival we were playing. The school was playing for the festival.
All right. The School of Law.
No, the school.
This school was playing. How nice. They have a very nice area.
Yeah.
And so they are doing it. The people are doing it in terms of textiles. Rajiv
Right.
Sethi is doing it.
Right.
Before that, Marthan Singh was doing it. The Calico Museum did it to a certain extent. Kapilaji did it as long as she's now 89. She's hardly in a position to supervise that. But she did that very well. So people have done that to fabric, people have done that to food, people have done that to music and musical instruments. Some have done that to in terms of traditions and rituals and ritual performances.
Okay.
So, if you have a ritual performance like a balladeer singing,
Right.
so it could be a balladeer trying to energize people tilling a field.
Right.
It could be a balladeer in making people happy and going on a long drawn march in a bridal party, in a marriage party. It could be possibly an all-night exorcism of ghosts in villages, which is ceasing to be. But so there was a use of music, use of ritual, the relationship between sacred and profane, traditional handing down of skills. And what has happened is that, you see, most of the people who made musical instruments belong to the scheduled caste, the people who worked with leather. Now they have got reservations and they have got jobs in government service and they are educated.
Right.
So they are not following the footsteps of their
They're not doing
parents.
that anymore.
Same with the cooks. They would much rather be hotel management officers, and not be hands-on heritage cooks. So again, it's very strange. I like kurtas, and I like my kurtas stitched traditionally. This is of course a Fab India one, which is a vulgarity, done in hand. And you don't have people who can do your kurta in hand. So the only person who does it is the one who does blouses for women in Khan Market. So I had to go to him, and he looked at me hard, and he thought I was trans going in for. So I said, मियाँ दिक्कत ये है कि हमको तो कुर्ते वही पसंद है जिसमें चुन्नट पड़ती है और जिसमें हाथ की तुरपाई होती है. So he made me run around several times. You can't get a halfway decent pajama tailored. You can't get a good Kolhapuri chappal without. There should be no stitching in a Kolhapuri chappal. They are all bound, but you don't even get them. You don't even get them in Kolhapur now. You have to look for them. You don't get them in Pune for sure. So these are the things which are dying down, parts of our crafts tradition. And that takes us to a very interesting point. See, music we treat as art. At music we divide classical or folk. But crafts fall somewhere in between. There are certain skills.
The skills,
so unless there is a person who can make you a good sitar, a good tabla, a good tanpura, how do you proceed anywhere further? He may not be a great musician unless a good sarangi is in your hand. So he mentioned harmonium. But I think the sarangi and violin are the much more, what people say they're closer to the human voice and people have taken to it closer. So those are the ones which intrigue me all the time.
It's saddening to hear of what we're losing. And that brings me to my final point, this the issue of aesthetics. And I've always wondered whether, we talk about evolution with regard to aesthetics very, very loosely. Right, and some of it is, I would call either mindless or pointless innovations in technology, and that's happened a lot with even recorded music, where just the fact of people playing around with the idea of physics has led to a massive boom in what we would call audio quality, and then it's gone back again because a lot of that stuff has just turned out to be redundant, right? So how do evolution and aesthetics work at all? Do they go hand in hand?
No, I don't know, because what happens is the word evolution is the one which I have problems with.
That's the one, yeah.
I mean, are we following the line that philosophically there is evolution?
Right.
Or we are saying that there is chance and necessity all the time? Is the Heisenberg's thing, either the particle is there, or you can either locate the particle or you can measure the speed. Or Schrödinger's cat, you open the box to find out whether the cat is living or dead and it will kill the cat.
Right.
So when you move from the realm of Newtonian mechanical physics to quantum physics, is a different ballgame altogether. But I would concede the point that without getting confused about the overlap between physics, metaphysics and music, but ultimately everything is metaphysical, is beyond physics.
Right.
So everything is, if we are talking of music and evolution and what we are losing and physics, see, fine, is nice to have a soundproof studio. But wouldn't it be nice to have some ambient sound? What BBC does in their studio, tinkle a teacup, make a spoon, play around with a cup and so on and so forth. It would be a very dead folk music performance if it were recorded in a sound studio. You would have to have somebody heckling, somebody talking, some car hooting somewhere else and so on. So I personally believe that I would like my art not perfect but with human blemishes, shortcomings. So it is not a divinely structured perfection. And I would like no intermediary between music. I would not like amplification. The quality of voice which we talked about, old singers. So if you have an amplifier, if you have a mic, and if you have no need to worry about that, then you will never cultivate your voice to throw it to the back. It's like acting. If you know that you are going to be on a perpetual close-up in a TV screen,
You don't need to worry
you don't need to be Richard Burton and play things with your eyes. And let's not worry about this, that ultimately Shakespeare and Marlowe were writing for the lowest common denominator. The Globe Theatre plays were popular entertainment. So there is a body. The human body is the instrument. You sing, you dance, you talk, you mimic.
It's affecting our singers a lot. So this
It
point
does,
is that,
it does.
you know, and even the singing teachers, they're actually not working with something as fundamental as your breathing, because today there's no need to throw the voice.
No need to throw the voice, and nobody is really worried about. See, you have a small bar of music which you sing, and then there is an instrumental interlude which will take you.
Yeah.
No, I was listening to some of my old favorites, Simon and Garfunkel, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, and Bob Dylan doesn't have a great voice, but
Yes, it can get quite painful sometimes.
yes,
Yeah.
and
but his songwriting and
but his songwriting takes it into a different realm.
Yeah.
And then you have the whole context of the Woodstock and the Vietnam resistance and so on, and relationship with Joan Baez and Simon and Garfunkel, and you know, it's a
and then
different
the song
context.
that she wrote for him.
Yes,
And,
yes.
But you know, they easily draw you into that, and then you find that the story and the music are all very closely linked.
But so was the case supposedly when you were doing either Meera Bhajans
Right.
or you were doing a Khayal Bandish, which was a Bandish जो पकड़ थी.
Right.
वो पकड़ तो आपकी थी ना, उमड़ घुमड़ घन गर्जन लागे would tell you there is Mallar. It would be some form of Mallar. It would be यहाँ की Mallar, Big Mallar, Basant or Basant Bahar. You know, so I think there was a word and the meaning and the music which merged, which is ceasing to be there because people neither have literacy nor have they been taught.
So is there something that you think could be done to prevent this?
I think the only thing is to catch them young, as they say, and let the kids be exposed to different kinds of art forms, music and food. And I think given other things being even, somebody who has tasted a good galati kebab is not going to relish the
Never gonna.
mayo drenched McD tikki at all.
Yeah.
If you have eaten a good pasta,
Yeah.
good Italian pasta with homemade fresh sauce, you are never going to put in your mouth the Domino pizzas and things of that
Yeah,
kind.
yeah.
I'm a great believer in that. If the kids have been, but how many kids are these days exposed to good food, good music, good literature at home?
Yeah. I think it would be a good effort to sort of focus on that actually. Yeah.
Yes, it would be worth it.
Because what happens at home is probably the largest influence, right?
Oh, of course, but
Especially in formative years, right?
how many children have a home now? I mean, it breaks my heart to say so, but most kids are sent to boarding schools. If the parents can afford it, you go to
Yeah.
St. Paul's, you go to Doon, you go to Mayo. If you are filthily rich, you go to England. You go to a whole day school like the International Baccalaureate schools. So most of your life is spent outside the school,
Yeah.
and your parents hardly have time for you.
Yeah.
They are either busy with business or their social life, and then you make your own peer group and you have your own life,
Right.
and you have never inherited anything. You know.
Yeah.
So that is what is, and especially, I feel bad about it because what little I learned was when I was staying at home, being homeschooled by my mother who resigned her university teaching job to raise kids at home. And my father always had time for us. So I think that I did reasonable to when my son was growing up to spend time with him as much as I could and with him. But unfortunately, he, despite his best intentions, is not being able to do that with his children. And is no point saying that times have changed. Times have not changed. They still spend a lot of time together in wildlife park, in hang gliding, in adventure sports. But then it's different. They're back to nature. And when he cooks, the younger daughter is fond of cooking.
Right.
But the elder daughter is indifferent to food because the peer group pressure is such. कुछ भी खा लो, इम्तिहान देना, पढ़ना है.
Yeah.
So I think what we have lost out on that. The home lives are not. We haven't quite made our kids independent,
Yeah.
but we have given them enough rope to hang themselves, and we have absolved ourselves of our responsibilities.
Yeah.
I have a
Yes.
couple of questions. First, both food and music have a special place in religious practices.
I would say so does painting, so does sculpture.
Yeah.
If you are an
Art
idol
in
worshipper,
general.
no, art in general, art. Say art.
Okay.
Don't say art in general and art in particular. I think we live life in totality. We live an integrated life. So when I go to a temple, there may be a bhajan, there may be an incense stick burning a smell, there may be a prasad which is sweet, There may be a sparsh of flower, which is color and touch and delicacy, and there would be bhajan mandali singing somewhere. There would be an idol which would be good or bad or ugly. There would be a structure of temple, like maybe as ugly as Birla Mandir, it may be as enticing as one of the Khajuraho temples. But then the point is that there's a totality of experience you respond to.
But that's exactly what I was trying to get to. That I was reading about the food and music thing, and one of the articles said that now we are developing a new form of art where we're trying to get all five senses to come together.
There's a bit of a joke, as Adhiraj was saying. It would be like you will smell coffee beans roasting somewhere, but it will not be the cup of coffee. So it would trigger a Pavlovian reflex in you. You will drool about that. But it may work, it may not work. If you have never smelt good coffee, how is going to trigger a response in you at all?
Yeah, it's like an airport syndrome, really.
Absolutely.
It's very much an airport syndrome.
But in practice, even so, if you are as a musician trying to play a certain bar,
right,
you would play a certain set list. If it's a Sector 29 bar where you find young kids of 20, and if you're going to a different setting, if you're going to a hotel, 5-star hotel, and you're going for a private thing,
I would be very cautious before I played either of these places, actually.
But what I'm trying to say is that the chef and the musician both serve a room.
No, they don't. What they do, they serve to the lowest common denominator and the cash counter. So that is what they say, ki everybody, you go to any shadi, you go to any party, you will have a kari dal, you have paneer, you will have chaat, you will have kadai murg, you will have tandoori murg, you will have juice corner, you will have noodles, you will have 2 pulavs, you will have 3 salads, you have gulab jamun, you will have gajar ka halwa. This is what, to borrow Noam Chomsky's phrase, is manufacturing taste.
You won't have escargot and caviar and all that.
No.
Because only 5 people know what it is.
Yeah. So that's why you won't play something. If you are...
But that's where there are special performances which they do for themselves, or where you have specially curated meals, where the other person is forced to shut up and say that emperor is naked. Ye bada achhe kapde pehniye, aapko bada achhe. If you are a man of taste, you will eat this. So you will do that.
And one other thing I came across was that there is research on this, and I don't know how deep a research is it, that music actually changes the way you taste stuff.
I'm not so sure about that, but it does, because what happens is that what you taste is again a function here. If there is music, you may have powerful enough music to distract you from food, or you have food which is sublime where music interferes. So there is this कि कोई गज़ल गा रहा है, कोई टिन 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 गिटार में बज रहा है, आप खाना खा रहे हैं, it's absurd. I would much rather concentrate on my plate and look at the eye candy of the plate, the polychromatic range of the stuff, the textures of it, temperature of it, and enjoy it. So, of course, Jagdish Basu would say that music is played and the cows yield more milk and plants grow faster. Fine, let it be there. But if I am there, I'm not going to analyze my sexual act by saying that when the orgasm is coming and ruin everything, I would much rather be on with the act. So food is basically tactile, tasting, sensory. And music, again sensory, and it may distract you, and food may change different. But you might have a cold and food will not taste the same again. So do you say that your cold is a musical cold?
No, definitely not.
It's really interesting. I have a crazy appetite. It doesn't look like it. But I've noticed that I eat, I think, 90% by taste. And I don't eat by... to the point where I even ignore necessity. Sometimes if I don't like the taste of the food, I will not eat it. I'm not saying that I'm a connoisseur. I'm not saying that I have good taste.
No, but the body dictates your taste according to what you require.
Yeah.
If you require a sugar fix, you will like sweets. If you are running low on your sodiums and potassiums, you would hit for savories. I have absolutely no problems with this one. I don't think that you have a prescribed diet. After all, what do the nutritionists know about it? Each human body is different.
I have no idea. All I know is if I don't like the dal, I'm not going to eat it. If I don't like the chapati, I will not eat it.
But how many times in your life in recent past have you got a well-made dal? I think pressure cooking has scaled our cooking, and then people say yellow dal, kali dal. They don't even know what a good dal is. They don't even know how to cook a good dal. They don't even know how to make a tadka in a dal properly. I come from the hills where we have dals like Gehet ki dal and Bhat ki dal, and masoor ki dal, and those dals are the only dals which we eat. We never had mash, we never had rajma, we never had chole, and they were cooked slow, and they were tempered differently, and they were all well-made dals. I still think that there is nothing like a well-made dal and roti.
It's very tasty.
But
it's very comforting as well.
Yes.
But that's an interesting parallel in itself. Technology kills a little bit of what it really is. It does in music as well.
It makes life easy.
It makes life easy.
But life was not meant to be easy, na?
So like the pressure cooker, now the synthesizing
or even
of
a
music
pedal for that
helps.
matter, you know, like you use a pedal, and then you don't need to worry about how to get a particular sound using your hands, you know. So you said you come from the hills. Which portion, you know?
I come from a part, if you have travelled in Kumaon Hills, I come from somewhere near Almora. We have a place near Bageshwar, and beyond Bageshwar, en route to Pithoragarh, on the Kailash Mansarovar route, there's a place called Kanda. You walk down to Kanda. It's a route to Pindari Glacier as well, to Kapkot side.
Yeah.
So the village is somewhere there. Our ancestral village is very close to Nepal. Is the Kali River divides the Kumaon and Nepal. So Jhulaghat, Pithoragarh, Jaljibi, Munshari, that side, Gangoli Ghat. I come basically Pansar from Gangoli Ghat, which is very close to Pithoragarh on that route. But the family has been settled in Almora for quite some time.
Okay.
I have a small place in Ranikhet rented where I stay.
Okay. That's interesting, sir. So I've been to Munsiari a few times. One of my favorite.
Did you stay in Theo's place?
Stay at Theo's place. Yeah.
That's the only place. That's the only place worth staying there.
Yeah.
Munshari is a very nice place.
Yeah.
I used to stay with Mangal Singh Ji. Mangal Singh Ji Tolia, Durga Singh Martolia's elder brother.
Right.
He's dead now. He is in Song Village. I used to stay with him. I haven't been to Munshari for 5-6 years now.
So part of my family, my grandfather's family, comes from the Kumaon area.
Where from?
I'm not entirely sure, sir, but you know, it's
the name, the way you are Adhiraj, they should be bisht. They should be bisht.
No, so that, you know, the thing is that part of it is very it's very mishmash.
Because Mahiraj Singh used to be with us in college 1 year. Our series, he was Mahiraj Singh bisht, and he was dancing Malda the Timber Merchants, and they stayed from Chokodi. They were from Chokodi.
I'm only called Adhiraj because Adhiraj was the name of my father's best friend.
All right.
And they were Bengalis from funnily enough, living in Jaipur actually. So they migrated from.
So where from in Kumaon you are? You have no idea.
So my grandfather's from I think it's from the Bhimtal area, from that region.
That's where our ancestral village was.
I think it's from that region. So. But I can't be sure. I know that, you know, there is some property in Bhimtal itself.
Same here.
Back,
we have some property, but we have not claimed it.
We haven't traced the journey exactly, you know, as to. And I know that my grandfather from my mother's side, great grandfather, traveled from Iran or Persia around that time over this side. So it's a slightly vague, you know, history. I was a little disturbed by the fact that I don't know enough about it. So I've sat down all my family members and recorded it, and now I plan to write it out.
No, but in this case, it should not be very difficult, because if your great grandfather from your mother's side came from Iran, it is very easily traceable, because it would not be more than 120 years back.
Yeah.
And there's a time when an Afghan prince came and settled in Bhavali when Bacha Sakka was sacked.
Right.
But they were not from Persia; they were from Afghanistan.
Okay.
The last batch of Persians who came and settled in India were the people who left behind Nadir Shah, way back in 17 something. But that's about 200 years back. That could not be your grandfather's generation. So was it your grandfather who was one of the Persians who came here, or was he one of those Indians who was an Indian trader in Persia who used to stay in Astrakhan?
This is my great grandfather, who was a Persian who came over. Great grandfather, or his grand.
Fair enough.
Mother's grandfather.
Your mother's grandfather would be your great grandfather.
Yeah.
And that would not be more than 120 years back. That would be interesting, because that should be worth tracing.
It's a very interesting story.
There are two such families in Bhimtal. You wouldn't know Smeticheks.
I know the Smeticheks. Yeah.
Smeticheks family is something like that.
Yeah. Their property is right next to.
All right. Smeticheks used to be with us in college. They were junior to us by about 5 years.
Okay.
But Victor and Peter both were junior to us in DSB college.
Right.
But they stay in Bhimtal, and they are very nice people.
I don't know them personally.
But they again had a family of that kind.
Yeah.
They're part Muslim, part Czech, part German, Austrian, part prisoners of war.
Yeah.
Fantastic love for butterflies.
That's true, yeah.
Well, thank you, sir,
Thank
for
you.
coming here.
Thank you
So
so
thank
much.
you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
your
much,
time.
Adhiraj.
And we're definitely going to have you back here.
आपका गांव कहाँ है भैया?
पौड़ी
पौड़ी कहाँ? बीरूखाल की साइड है, कहाँ है?
बेरुखा
बीरूखाल है. पौड़ी में पानी का संकट है यार, वरना बाकी तो सब ठीक था.
If there's anything wrong with that place, it's because of you, sir.
तुम यहाँ दिल्ली कब से हो?
दिल्ली में बचपन से
Make it so I can pull off mics.
23 साल हो
कितने?
23
और उम्र कितनी है हमारी?
23
हाँ बस ठीक है, तुम दिल्ली वाले ही हो यार, तुम पहाड़ी गाँव हो.
नहीं है तो पहाड़ी से, दिल से पहाड़ी
तुम पढ़ावानी बोलते हो नहीं बोलते?
पूरी
हाँ, ठीक है, पूरी बोलते हो, सब ठीक है.
Should I pull out the mic?
पढ़ाई लिखाई दिल्ली में हुई हमारी?
हाँ जी
कहाँ तक पढ़ा?
मैं BA फाइन